Hey everyone, this topic is going to be on conspiracy theories and false rebellion. So, what is a conspiracy theory? Fundamentally, what a conspiracy theory is the idea that an individual or a group of people are conspiring against you to harm you in some way. And an individual that tries to alert you to that fact is called a conspiracy theorist. The very term conspiracy theorist or conspiracy theory is a misnomer, because the idea that it's a theory means or insinuates that there is very little evidence to support it, and the person is just going out on a limb because, I don't know, whatever reason somebody would do something like that. Which couldn't be further from the truth. The amount of evidence to support this conspiracy concept is overwhelming. It's just like the UFO concept. The term UFO is a way to divert the public from really understanding what they are, because they're not unidentified and they're not even flying. Sometimes they're not even objects. Now, the idea that people in power would want to maintain their power is not far-fetched at all. I don't understand why it's so difficult for people to get this concept. I kind of understand, because our entire society is structured in such a way so that the people controlling it are not discovered. Obviously, if I have negative intentions for you, if I want to harm you in some way, and you know about it, you're going to stop me. Obviously, you don't want to be harmed. So, for me to continue my harmful actions, I need to make sure that you don't know what I'm doing. Take it a step further. Make it so that the very idea that I would harm you is so crazy in your mind that I will never be discovered. I'll give a very simple, small-scale example of what I'm talking about. Imagine, if you would, that I have two people. It's just me and two other people. And I'm sick and tired of doing everything myself, and I want them to do the work for me. Well, if I just go to them and order them around, they're immediately going to resist and say, no, I'm not going to do your work, do it yourself. Plus, there's more of them than there is of me. So step one would be to divide them. Get them to fight each other. Pit one against the other. I'll go to one and say, hey, so-and-so was talking shit about you and blah, 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 blah. And then I'll go to the other one and say, hey, this guy was saying all this shit about you, he's such an asshole. And then eventually they're fighting, completely distracted, and have no idea that I'm behind it. Okay? That's step one. Step two would be to make sure that my actions are not discovered. How do I do that? Set it up in such a way that the very idea that I would be intending to harm them is absurd. So I do a lot of what appear to be nice things for them, when in reality they're serving my purpose. Okay? This concept of control should not be a surprise to anyone. We know that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's an old adage, but it's very true. So if an individual is in power, it is logical to assume that the more power that they have, the more corrupt they will be. And it's not a judgment of their character, It's just simple physics, really. And I'm not claiming that these people are evil. The whole concept of good people and evil people is absurd. Everyone's 100% good and 100% evil. Just because somebody does one bad thing and you label them evil for the rest of their life is ridiculous. You can't go around saying this person's a good person, this person's a bad person. It doesn't make sense. We're just people. We have the ability to do evil things and the complete opposite ability to do positive things. So, are there people on this planet right now with a lot of power? Yes, absolutely. Look at the international bankers. Do you have any fucking clue how much money they have? If you have that much money and you want to maintain your power, it's not hard. As long as everyone believes that that money is worth something. Look at our population today. Everyone believes that money is worth something. Everyone believes that money makes a difference to anything, when in reality, it's just paper. It's not even paper, it's digits on a computer screen. It literally doesn't even exist. Yet people kill each other, murder each other, and starve because of it. Now, if I'm an international banker, and I'm printing this shit out, imagine how much power I have. If I want to silence somebody, because I might be exposed for what I'm doing, I'll spend a couple $1,000s for a hitman to take that person out. It's a good business investment, and it's not difficult to do, especially when you got billions of dollars. What I want to focus on is this idea that the conspiracy theorists, or the conspiracy concept in general, is crazy. Analyze this for a moment, okay? Somebody's coming to you and saying that the government, for the lack of a better term, more accurately the people behind the government, are trying to control you and make you a slave, while simultaneously making you convinced that you're not a slave. Okay? And that person, or that your reaction to that person is immediately, no, you're crazy. False. Not true. Analyze that right there. Whether or not that person that's trying to warn you is telling the truth, you don't know. You just immediately said that he's wrong, without actually investigating what he's saying, thereby immediately putting you in harm's way. Okay? If somebody comes to you and says, there are people behind the government that are controlling it, and they're controlling society, and they're controlling you, and you go, that may be true, that may not be true. Now that you've alerted me to that fact, or that concept, I'm going to look it up myself. Now you're in a position where you can be in the know. Okay? But it doesn't work like that. The knee-jerk reaction from everybody when they hear conspiracy is bullshit. Think about it. If you are an individual in power who is actually conspiring against other people, that's exactly what you want to happen, is for people to think that that idea of somebody controlling them is crazy. Then you'll never be discovered, ever. No one will ever know what you're doing, because as soon as somebody figures it out, the rest of the population immediately jumps on them and says, no, you're crazy. Part of the problem is that if you really want to understand how global macroeconomics work, you have to study mind control. The two are completely connected. They go hand in hand. But mind control really isn't a common topic for study. But if you take the time to discover how deep our population has explored mind control, you will realize that it is very easy to mind control an entire population. It is very easy. If you don't believe me, look up mind control. Look it up. It's a great documentary to start. It's called Human Resources. Look it up. Watch it. Get a better understanding of how mind control works. Because if you know nothing about mind control, how easy do you think it is for me to control your mind? If I know a ton of information on mind control, and you know nothing, how are you going to be able to defend yourself? You can't even ask the question, am I mind controlled? How do you tell somebody that they're a slave when their entire environment is pushing them to get the idea that they're a slave out of their mind? Look at the American population. People run around proclaiming their freedom left and right without even understanding what the concept of freedom is. They're a slave to gas. They don't realize that. They're a slave to money. They don't realize that. If you think you're free, just take a month off. Go somewhere without money. You think you're free? Go somewhere without gas. Look up what it means to be a slave. To be excessively dependent upon something. Okay? We're a slave to the system. We can't even feed ourselves. We can't even clothe ourselves. We can't do anything without buying it. Because we don't know how. The system is set up in such a way that it cyclically gets us dependent upon it. Now, another good thing to pay attention to is that if you are one of these individuals in power, eventually you have to plan for people to become aware of what you're doing. I mean, it's only a matter of time until somebody discovers what you're doing. So a good thing to do is, instead of just waiting for the rebellion to come, create your own rebellion. Create a false rebellion so that individuals who are starting to feel like what you're doing is wrong can start following this false rebellion that you're actually orchestrating. This is part of what the Occupy Wall Street movement is. It's not a secret that George Soros is largely behind Occupy Wall Street. And these Occupy Wall Street protesters, I respect them so much for what they're doing and trying to make a difference and standing up for what is right, but not enough of them understand what they're standing up for. They're focusing on these tiny little issues like Wall Street, when all the while there's chemtrails, there's starvation, there's all these different topics that are completely interconnected, but they're only focusing on one thing. That's a false rebellion. That's exactly what these people want. It's to get you to divert your attention from all the important topics and focus on one tiny little aspect of it. Look at something like the punk rock movement. My brother got real into punk rock. He even got political with it, in some sense. He spoke out against the government and, felt like he was supporting anarchy. But At the same time, he didn't study economics. He didn't study how, you know, society works or anything like that. He just looked around him and said, well, this is a bunch of bullshit. I'm gonna, you know, rebel against that. That's what the Occupy Wall Street movement is. It's the same thing. It's a bunch of people going, okay, well, I understand that this isn't working, so I'm gonna scream and moan and cry about it, and then hopefully change something. It's not gonna change anything. Educate yourself. Learn about it. Learn about economics. Learn about how society operates. Until you know that, until you know the game, how can you try and stop it? How do you know you're not still playing the game? This idea of false rebellion is a very important concept for people to understand, because when you divert the attention of the people from what you're doing through something that you yourself have instigated, you still have them in the palm of your hand. Okay? This is why I have not gone out and stood with the Occupy Wall Street people. If I did, the entire time, I would simply be trying to educate people. That's it. I mean, I wouldn't really be protesting. As soon as the cops came, I'm out. You know what I mean? I don't want to cause conflict with the cops. That's their goal. People need to understand that these riot police are selected specifically because of their personality. They do a large series of profiling before these individuals become police officers or riot officers. They are looking for a particular personality type that is a bully, basically, and is constantly looking for a fight. Why? Because if you can get the people to act violently against your oppression, then you have a justified reason to put them in jail. Well, they were fighting me. They were attacking me. If they're fighting if they're protesting peacefully, like John Lennon said, or Gandhi, or all these other people, Martin Luther King, there's nothing you can do. If they're being entirely peaceful, and you continue to beat them down, people are going to notice. It's going to wake up that many more people. Your entire power structure collapses. You cannot get into conflict with these riot police. Okay? That's why, you know, it's great that you come together and you make these tent cities and you're working as a community, but you need to do that in your own time, in your own place. Doing it on display like that is immediately going to cause you to be a target. If you do it on a small scale in your community, it will grow. If every individual in Occupy Wall Street movement went back home and started to do the very same thing they're doing in New York or all these big cities in their own hometown and really starting to make a difference, that's what's going to bring about change. Concentrating it into one place and putting it on display is not helping. So, pay attention to your reactions, people. If somebody's claiming something like, you know, this person's trying to harm you, the dumbest thing you can do is automatically assume that person's lying. Why can't you just look it up for yourself? Find out for yourself. Don't you feel like that's a lot safer? A lot safer bet? If, by the off chance they're right, you just saved yourself. If you looked it up. But if, by the off chance they're right, and you immediately said that they're wrong, you're fucked. There's nothing you can do. You're completely enslaved. None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe that they are free. Wish I could remember who said that. Alright.